Morning YouTube. And when I did my last video, I talked about the oil change on my truck, my new truck, and talked about the labels. Well, here's the same thing on the van. Under the hood, and I've also got some extra stuff on there. You might notice that it's been a while since this thing's had an oil change, and it's only about, I don't drive it much, and it's about 200 miles shy of needing an oil change again. So this is actually Tuesday, June 17th, 2025, a little bit before noon. And that's not what this video is actually about. And what the video is actually about this time is that thing right there. Now on my community page, 3 different times I've talked about that. And as you can see, I got that mounted in there, but I don't have it hooked up yet. And that's what we're going to talk about in this video. But in order to tell you what that does, it's called an oil catch can, but in order to tell you what that does and why I need to put that on there, I need to explain a little bit more about how these motors work. Well, inside, you know, on a van, of course, the motor's way back up under there, and you can't even see it from here. But inside the engine block, which is all sealed up, of course, there's oil, and the oil is being pumped around by the oil pump, and all the action of the crankshaft going around, the pistons going up and down and stuff, it ends up filling that whole engine block with a oily vapor, which gets all over everything, and that's what prevents wear and makes the thing work. But in the process of that, of course, there's heating and cooling going on. And part of that heating and cooling cycle means that there's pressure builds up inside that engine block, and also there's a certain amount of compression leakage. It goes past the piston rings. That also adds to the pressure inside the block. So that pressure has to be relieved to the outside somewhere or somehow. And in the old days, they just had a vent going to the outside, but later on, as cars started having emission systems, they started making that a sealed up system. And they started running that back from the inside of the engine block back into the intake manifold and running it through the engine, burning it. Now this van is 34 years old, but it still has an emission system on it. And so what they put on those is they put on something called a PCV valve, and PCV stands for positive crankcase ventilation. And on this motor, it's actually located way back in there on the back side of the valve cover on the passenger side. And now I'm going to show you what that looks like. I'm going to insert a still picture here to show you where that's at and what it looks like. Now under normal circumstances, that would pull the vapors out of the inside of the engine block and run them back through the system and burn them up so they wouldn't escape to the outside. But as an engine gets a little bit older, it starts getting a little bit more compression leakage. It's called blow-by, and ends up increasing the amount of the pressure inside that engine block, and it has to be vented somewhere. So on this particular motor, because of the fact that it sits so far back up in here from the driver's side valve cover, there's this tube right here, and this is where you put oil in it. Well, on the back side of that, you see this tube right here. Well, that's connected to that, and that runs over here and runs into the air cleaner. It's right there. So let me tell you a little bit about the air cleaner, what the problem is. Well, the air cleaner on this vehicle, it actually pulls air from the outside right in here, and then it goes up through this filter into this box here, and then into these tubes where it's pulled into the engine. Right, well, where this tube is here, you can see where that oil from that blow-by has come into this little filter, and you can see how it's contaminated that, how it's contaminated this, and then there's a hole in the bottom of it right there where whatever's left over leaks out and ends up going down here and dripping all over the engine. So what the oil catch can is intended to do is this tube here is going to go from here around to the inlet, which is right there. And then this outlet from right here is going to go and tie in here and back over into here. So in order to go, so the vacuum from the engine is going to pull that air through this catch can and trap that oil right there so it doesn't get over here and cause all this contamination that you see here. That's the intent, and that's why I'm doing it. And it's just part of an engine getting older. And of course, this engine's 33 years old. So basically, or 34 years old, actually. So basically, that's what I'm doing. I figured I'd kind of try to explain it to you. And I'm going to come back here in just a little bit when I've got it finished. And I'll show you what I ended up doing. Because this being the inlet, and this being where it comes from, I'm going to have to deal with this loop here somehow. This one's going to be easy because it just has to go into there. And I've got a novel solution for that, and I'm going to show you what that is when we come back. Well, there's what I ended up with, and I got sidetracked during the day, so later on in the evening I'm back out working on this, but the original tube that came out of here that went back over into the bottom of the air cleaner over there, okay, that now goes over here to the inlet. And there's the outlet, and that goes back over to the air cleaner. So basically, it'll run those fumes through the oil catch can. And then when the oil catch can needs to be drained, I can put a cup or something underneath it and just drain it right like that. So I'm not sure how much that'll catch, but it'll catch some. And of course, they've got a vent up here. I have a plug for that. If it turns out that that vent doesn't work, I have a plug I can replace that with. Now, I talked before about one of the problems I'm concerned with is having a big loop of hose coming all the way out here and going back over to this thing. And the way I'll solve that is with these copper water pipe fittings. And now I might still have to go put some hose clamps on those to get them to stay in place. But basically what these are half-inch copper elbows for house water pipes. And half-inch inside diameter means they're 5/8 inch outside diameter, which is what this hose is. So they fit in there pretty tight, but there are kind of an angle there, and time will tell whether they'll stay in place or not. I may have to put hose clamps on them, and I might want to shorten this one up here just a tiny, maybe take a 1/2 inch off it or something and move this part over about a 1/2 inch. But we'll see how that holds up and see how that works, and I probably won't really know how successful this really has been until I get to take it out on a fairly long trip somewhere. But for right now, that's what I've got. I've got it buttoned together. I've got it installed. And it's a beautiful evening out here. It finally cooled down. It got into the low 90s today. It was kind of toasty out here. So I got sidetracked working other projects, and I finally got out here in the cool evening air to fix this. So like I always tell you, take care of each other, love each other, show gratitude for what you have, and be thankful that you're not someplace in a war zone somewhere, because there's a lot of people over there that are suffering. So until I talk to you again, this is another project I can say is done, unless I have to work on it a little bit more. But for right now, let me give you another quick look at how that catch can is installed and tell you peace out.